start with, I would like to know a little, because you started from Kaduna, so I'm guessing you either went to Ahmadu Bello University, or you went to, which is around Zaria, or you went to Kaduna Poly.
Yeah, Kaduna Poly, yeah. That's my alma mater, yeah.
Kad Poly. I lived in Kaduna for about 9 months. I was in Congo campus, so I know Kaduna a little bit. So, I would like to know the dynamics. How would you describe the dynamics in Kaduna between Southern Kaduna and what has now become, in effect, if you could give us like a little bit of history in terms of Northern Kaduna and Southern Kaduna. Most people don't understand that it didn't always start out that way, and it was essentially man-made to make sure that Muslims are on one side and Christians are on one side. So if you can give us a view on how that happened, a historical view on how that happened, and the effects it has today with the current governor.
Okay. Before year 2000, am I audible enough?
Yes.
Okay. Before year 2000, I had relatives who live in Kau, Mando, and other part of Kaduna metropolis. Before year 2000, everybody lives anywhere. Now, then the Sharia crisis came. Now, after the Sharia crisis, the crisis became Muslim versus Christians.
Okay, was this the institution of Sharia law?
Yes.
In some parts of northern Nigeria.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
good.
Yes. So after that crisis that engulfed the state in year 2000, the state was restructured, kind of. The Christians felt they are no longer safe up north the river. So they migrated down. And when I say the Christians, I'm not talking about just the indigenes. I'm also talking about other tribes, the Igbos, the Yorubas, the Edos, and every other person that were not Hausas and were not Fulani. So they migrated down across the river. Also, the Muslims who were living down across the river before had to move upward. So that division started significantly in the year 2000. But then I think it all boils down to leadership. The governor, McCarthy, then tried to manage the crisis, by creating chiefdoms across the state to give the people, the various ethnic nationalities, sense of belonging and independence, sort of, So even though, yes, people have left their land, their houses in other part of Kaduna, moving down, that division was created, but it was properly managed, at least until 2011, when we had the post-election crisis. Now, and the post-election crisis, we all know who created it. The current guys in power created or instigated that crisis because the election was free and fair. A winner was declared. So why now, instigate people?
This crisis you're talking about, is it the Patrick Yakowa election?
Good. Yakowa and Goodluck Jonathan's election, 2011. Now,
and Yakowa is a Southern Christian.
Yes, it's a Southern Christian.
Who gets into office for the first time.
Yeah.
Yes. In fact, he got into office by divine providence. We knew how Namadi Sambo was pressured not to accept the position of vice president because he was vacating his office as governor for an infidel. That was the impression. So, after the 2011 election results were announced, the general belief in northern Nigeria was that if you are a Christian, you voted for the PDP. Yeah. So they started killing and burning and looting. So the 2011 post-election crisis created a new chapter of tension in Kaduna State. Because 1 year, 5 months after that crisis and Yakowa's emergence as governor, he was killed in a plane crash that there's not been any conclusive investigation to date.
one which killed the I think
General
Azaz
Azazi.
at that point in time.
Yeah.
Azazi, yes. And we all knew that Azazi too was in the bad book of some top people in government at that time, because he made some comments that didn't go down well with some elites in the country. So now, after the post-election crisis of 2011, before that election crisis, there's never been attacks on communities in southern Kaduna. Even though we had attacks in Dogona Hawa in Plateau State. You remember Plateau, where over 500 people were killed, and during the mass burial, the terrorists returned, and the Senate senator was killed. Now, we only used to read on papers that terrorists were attacking communities in Plateau. But after the post-election crisis, it shifted to southern Kaduna. Now, it started in 2011 in Zokwa. On Sunday, 3 churchgoers were massacred by terrorists. So it continued. Now, one thing is clear. The crisis that engulfed the state, the Sharia crisis and the post-election crisis, were ethno-religious crises, where Christians killed Muslims, Muslims killed Christians. Right. But the current happenings are clear cases of terrorism. It's no longer a clash where Muslims go to kill Christians. No. It's an asymmetric warfare where some terrorists invade the community, kill people, burn houses, and retreat back to wherever they are coming from to plan for the next attack. So
don't they do occupation of the land sometimes?
Of course, we've lost count of communities that have been occupied by these terrorists. Now, let me share something here that is very important. In 2020, the Southern Kaduna People's Union were alleging and telling the world that certain communities have been occupied by the terrorists. And the governor came on air and challenged the public that whoever has proof that any community has been occupied should present it. Now, let me tell you what I and some friends did. In this era of technology, so we got a drone. Because he knows that those communities that have been occupied, the terrorists are armed. So you dare not go there to confirm whether they are occupied or not. So what we did was, we flew drone over those communities. Right. And the footages were mind-blowing. You could see communities where the indigenous people were displaced. You could see their houses. You could see their farmland. Then you could see the cattle grazing on their farmland. You could see the guys wielding their rifles. So the day we made those footages viral or public was the last time the governor ever challenged anyone to prove that communities are under occupation.
The governor in question is,
of course, verified.
Okay.
Yes. So there've been several communities that, even as we speak now, that the indigenous people can no longer go back there because the terrorists are there and they are armed.